Writing. The twin suns of Thal'Rien burned low over the horizon, bleeding crimson light across the sky as the royal fleet glided into orbit. The ships were elegant and silver, their hulls whispering with faint energy as they descended toward the capital below. On the largest of them stood Princess Aelira Vael'Tar, heir to the Varix Empire, a proud alien civilization that once ruled half the Orion Arm. She watched the planet's capital through the observation deck's glass. Spires like crystal daggers, streets pulsing with iridescent light, and below, crowds gathering to glimpse her return. Yet Aelira's eyes did not linger on the beauty. Her jaw was tight, her violet skin shimmering faintly with tension. She was 20 cycles old and had just returned from a diplomatic tour that had been nothing short of humiliating. Because the Council had forced her to meet with humans. Primitive, impulsive, unpredictable humans. The species that had expanded too quickly and too recklessly into Varix space. The treaty negotiations had been a disaster. Humans were too stubborn to bow, too emotional to reason with, and far too clever to control. She had left Earth swearing she'd never deal with one again. And yet, fate had a sense of irony. The attack on Thal'Rien. Her ship hadn't even finished its descent when the alarms screamed. The deck trembled violently. Aelira stumbled, catching herself on the railing as blue emergency lights strobed across the walls. "Status!" she barked, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Unknown vessels emerging from warp, multiple contacts," shouted her guard captain Threx. "They're not Varix signatures." The hull shuddered again, harder this time. The deck lights flickered, and for a moment Aelira saw fire outside the window, streaks of plasma ripping across the fleet. She recognized the shape of the attackers. Redefine raiders. Merciless scavengers who hunted border systems and took slaves for profit. "Shields are down to 20%, someone yelled. "Evacuate to the surface," Threx ordered. "Your Highness, with me." But the ship lurched, and the viewport exploded inward as debris tore through the control deck. Vacuum howled. Aelira's world went black. She woke to silence and smoke. The royal ship was a wreck, half buried in the jungles outside the capital. Fires burned along the torn hull. Her communicator was shattered. No guards, no escort. Just the eerie shriek of night creatures in the alien wilds of her own world. Pain radiated through her ribs as she pushed herself up. "Threx!" she called, coughing on the smoke. No response. Her eyes adjusted, and that's when she saw movement through the trees. A silhouette humanoid dragging someone out of the wreck. "Stay back," she hissed, reaching for the energy dagger at her belt. But the figure turned, hands raised in peace. Human. Too. The human mercenary. He was tall, lean. His suit scuffed with burn marks and insignia she didn't recognize. A rifle hung at his side. His face was grim but alert. His eyes scanning for threats even as he knelt beside her. "You're alive," he said, relief flashing across his face. "Thank God." Aelira's disgust was instant. "You will not address me so casually, human." He gave a small, almost amused nod. "Noted, Your Highness." Then, without asking, he tore a strip from his own sleeve and wrapped it around her bleeding arm. "You've got shrapnel in your shoulder. We need to move before the Redefine sweep back. How do you know about them?" He glanced toward the burning forest. "Because I used to fight them." His name was Captain Elias Ward, formerly of the Terran Defense Corps. A mercenary now, hired by the Varix Council as part of an exchange security program, something Aelira hadn't been told about. He'd been assigned to the Royal Fleet as an observer. She almost laughed at the absurdity. I do not require your protection, she said coldly, pushing him away. I can reach the city on my own. He didn't argue, just looked at her, then at the smoke rising behind them. Your city's burning, princess. The Redefine hit more than your ship. That stopped her. What? He gestured to the horizon. Flames licked up from the capital's towers. The energy grid had collapsed. Somewhere in the distance, a massive explosion rolled through the air. Her people, her city, under attack. Her stomach twisted with disbelief. She turned to run toward the city, but Elias caught her wrist. You won't make it alone. The Redefine are rounding up survivors. We move smart or we die. For a moment she considered striking him. But when another explosion rattled the jungle, she reluctantly nodded. Fine. Lead the way. 3. Through the burning wilds. They moved through the dense forest under the glow of twin moons. Elias moved like a soldier. Silent, efficient, scanning for movement. Aelira followed, though her royal boots were not made from mud and ash. Every few minutes, she would glance at him, her expression unreadable. Finally she asked, Why are you here really? Mercenaries don't risk their lives for free. Elias smirked faintly. Because I owe your people. A Varric's ship saved my unit 3 years ago during a border skirmish. They didn't have to. But they did. She studied him quietly. Gratitude was not something she associated with humans. They were opportunists, not altruists. Yet this man carried himself differently. No arrogance, no false pride. Just quiet determination. Hours later, they found a clearing overlooking the ruined city. Columns of smoke rose from where once stood the royal spire. Aelira's throat tightened. She'd been raised to be the symbol of her people's pride. Now she could feel that pride crumbling like the city below. Elias crouched beside her, his tone softer now. We'll find survivors. Command centers, bunkers. Someone's gotta be organizing resistance. She didn't look at him. You speak as if you're one of us. He shrugged. Right now, we're both just trying to stay alive. 4. The underground resistance. By dawn they found it. The remnants of the royal guard, holed up in a subterranean bunker beneath the capital ruins. Aelira was immediately recognized and surrounded by her people. But when Elias followed her inside, the guards' hands went to their weapons. A human, hissed one of them. He should be in chains. He saved my life, Aelira snapped before she could stop herself. The words surprised even her. He stays. The guards exchanged wary glances but obeyed. Elias gave her a small nod of thanks, though his eyes said more than words could. Inside, the resistance was grim. Only a few hundred soldiers remained. Communications were severed. The Redefine had taken control of the orbital defense ring. The Empire's heart was bleeding. We'll die before surrendering, said Captain Threx, who had survived after all, though badly wounded. But we'll take as many of them with us as we can. Elias frowned. That's suicide. You don't beat the Redefine with pride. You beat them by outthinking them. Aelira turned sharply. And what would a human mercenary suggest? He pulled up a holographic map of the area. Your defense ring is offline because they're jamming your command frequencies. But if we get someone into the old relay towers north of here, we can cut their control and reroute your orbital guns. You turn their own blockade into a trap. Breck scoffed. You think we'll entrust our systems to a human? Aelira hesitated. The plan was bold, reckless, but it was also brilliant. He'll do it, she said finally. With my authorization. Elias blinked. Wait me. You suggested it, she said with a faint smirk. Now prove your species' intelligence. Read the mission. The night was thick with ash and gunfire as they crossed the ruined city. Aelira insisted on joining the infiltration team despite protests. My people fight and die for me, she said. I'll not hide underground while others bleed. Elias admired that, though he didn't say it. The princess had shed her arrogance somewhere between the jungle and the bunker. What remained was fierce, determined, and utterly resolute. They reached the northern tower by dawn. Redefine patrols swarmed the area. Tall, insectoid creatures with obsidian armor and eyes that glowed like molten glass. Elias motioned for silence and led the way through the wreckage. Inside the tower, ancient consoles flickered weakly. The control core still functioned. If I can access the uplink, Elias muttered, fingers flying across the console, I can redirect the orbital weapons. But I'll need time. Aelira took position by the doorway, energy rifle steady. Then you'll have it. The first explosion came minutes later. Redefine soldiers breaching the lower levels. The air filled with screams and plasma fire. Aelira fought like a whirlwind, her training and fury converging into deadly precision. Elias worked feverishly, sweat dripping down his temples. Almost there, he muttered, just as the console erupted with blue light. Got it. Target lock confirmed. Do it, she yelled. He slammed the activation key. Above them the night sky came alive. The orbital defense ring roared back to life, raining destruction upon the Redefine ships in orbit. Fire streaked across the heavens. The alien invaders screamed as their vessels disintegrated. But their victory came with a cost. A blast tore through the control chamber, throwing Aelira to the floor. She saw Elias collapse, blood blooming across his chest where shrapnel had struck. She crawled to him, hands trembling. No, 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 she whispered, pressing her hands against the wound. You can't die now. He managed a weak smile. Guess, humans aren't all bad, huh? Don't speak, she said, tears streaking her face. You will live. That's an order. He chuckled faintly. You're a terrible commander. Then his hand fell still. 6. Aftermath. The Redefine fleet was annihilated within hours. The surviving Varix forces rallied, pushing the raiders off Thal'Rien entirely. The orbital guns fell silent, and the skies cleared for the first time in days. In the grand hall of the ruined palace, the princess stood before the remnants of her council. Her armor was scorched, her crown gone. But her voice carried the weight of rebirth. We were saved, she said, not by our pride nor by our might, but by the courage of one who had no reason to fight for us. The council shifted uneasily. Some bowed their heads. Others avoided her gaze. Humanity, she continued, is not our enemy. It is our mirror. Where we see chaos, they see resilience. Where we see weakness, they show heart. And where I once saw inferiority, she paused, her voice softening, I found strength. She stepped down from the dais and placed a small metal insignia on the memorial stone at the center of the hall, a Terran defense emblem, worn and scratched, but still gleaming. For Captain Elias Ward, she said quietly. Protector of Thal'Rien. Friend of the Varix. And the man who taught a princess what it truly means to lead. 7. Epilogue. The Star Between Worlds. Months later, the rebuilt orbital ring hummed peacefully above the planet. Trade ships came and went, half Varix, half human. A new treaty had been signed, one forged in blood and gratitude. At the palace balcony, Aelira stood beneath the stars, wearing a silver clasp shaped like a Terran insignia. She looked to the heavens where a single star glowed brighter than the rest. They'll tell your story, she whispered. Even if I'm the only one who remembers your voice. A soft wind stirred her hair, and for a moment she swore she heard him say, "You're doing fine, princess." She smiled faintly, the bitterness of her old hatred long gone. For in the vast cold of the galaxy, one human heart had burned brighter than any sun. And she would never forget it.